No, that's your...
The swell. Of course, it has evolved, and nowadays I hear it is more days.
Yes, more, but it's become...
She is west.
West of
Yes.
she.
Yes, so west of the river,
Yes.
and the east of the river.
Thank you so much, and this is Teaching Beyond Borders. Now, with me today is a legend. They call him Odijo, and I know you've heard this name. Now, let us congratulate this amazing gentleman. Let's get to know him. Let's get to know where the name Odijo came from, and how does he fit in the podcast Teaching Beyond Borders. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Eric. Pleasure.
They call you Odijo, but is that your real name?
No, Odijo is an old-fashioned acronym was the nickname for Mwalimu,
All right.
Mwalimu teacher. So it comes from the streets, actually.
Right.
And when I started my feeding program about 11 years ago,
Okay.
one of the students introduced himself and told me he's called Steve. And then he asked me, "Nawe unaitwa nani?" I think very quickly, because like now we're telling Clifford, they were telling him, "We'll watch."
Yes.
This guy is already inebriated. I mean, he's a bit high.
Yes.
So I just I picked a line from James Bond, "Call me Bond." So I told him, "Nite tu Odijo."
Allah, you had him.
So from there, it just became Odijo.
Yes.
And there's some who don't even know my name.
Because that's what we know. That's
They swear. Of course, it has evolved, but nowadays I hear it is Mode. So
yes, Mode, but it's become a brand. Odijo has become a brand.
It has become my name.
Amazing.
Even in fact, at one of the slums, in Deep Sea Slum, all the kids just know me by that name.
Right.
They think that's my name.
Yes.
So they hear some jokes. "Hey, Uncle Odijo, Uncle Odijo." So they think that Odijo is my name, and they're being disrespectful by calling me Odijo.
Yeah.
So they call me Uncle Odijo.
Wow.
Kind of, yeah.
Well, when I quickly Googled your name, you've done so much.
Mm-hmm.
And you fit into that title of a teacher who's taught beyond borders, who's gone beyond teaching and has done so much stuff into the education industry.
Yeah.
Where did it all start? Who the person you've become today definitely started from somewhere, and I know many people don't know that. They just know the cream de la cream. Yes.
Yes, the product.
But where did the journey start?
Well, we normally say that we are giants because on the shoulder of giants we stand.
Right.
And that's what I trace it. First, I trace it to my dad and the family, kind of set up family.
Okay.
Come from that generation of, I don't know how to put it, but selfless fathers who went beyond those borders.
Okay.
So, 2 things or 3 things my dad did that completely defied. We lived in the tough neighborhood of Jericho in Eastlands, crime infested and that kind of thing.
Okay.
And he kind of would foresee that these kids will end up in crime if I don't do 2 things. If I don't move estates, or if I don't take them to a good school.
Yes.
He didn't have money for either.
Yes.
But he had a vision and he had a boldness. So the story goes that he worked with City Council, and as he was reading meters, he was at Banda School. And he went to the office, Banda is a Muzungu school.
Okay.
Just told them, "I would like my kids to school over here. Do you guys have scholarships?"
Wow.
They told him, "No, we don't have scholarships."
Yes.
But the lady was very, very nice, told him, "Why don't you go to St. Mary's, Catholic school, they would offer scholarship."
Yes.
The old man went there. He went to St. Mary's and knocked, did exactly the same thing, and they told him yes. So my older brother went to St. Mary's.
All right.
But somehow my dad did not believe in us being in the same school.
Okay.
All of us, we never schooled in the same place.
Right.
Everyone was scattered so that you come home, you have different stories.
It's interesting.
Yes. So he repeated, 3 years later, he repeated the same thing at Strathmore. Knocked, said, blah, 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 said, "Okay, bring it." Did the interview, and Strathmore Form 1, Form 6, I was actually on scholarship.
You went to the best schools. These are amazing schools.
They are good schools.
Yes.
But now that's why the story, that's why now they took, so the first person is my dad. The next people actually is I met, you know what you call alpha males? I met alpha males. Strathmore is a boys' school taught by only male teachers.
People who mentor you, who make you the man you've become
Exactly.
today.
So
Yes.
in Form 1, there's a legendary teacher known as Mr. Boruso. We used to call him the philosopher.
Wow.
And Boruso in Form 1 introduced us to ancient Greek philosophers.
Plato and Aristotle.
Exactly. In Form 1. In Form 1.
In Form 1.
In Form 1.
My goodness.
I mean, he would talk and like 40 boys would just keep quiet. And for the next like 2 years that he taught us that ancient history,
Yes.
kind of, we were like, oh, you mean there's another world that we have never. But basically what it is was to prick our intellect and conscience. Okay. So for the next 6 years, I had this array of brilliant teachers. Brilliant. I mean, you just could not believe that such brains were there. So the guy who taught us English and Lit, brilliant fellows,
Yeah.
maths, brilliant physics. You just had all this kind of.
Yes.
But all that put together was something about changing the world. Kind of right. Because these were people who are celibates. They've given their lives to teaching for the rest of their life and all that, but changing lives, kind of right. So when I came out of there, I'd already started on a regular basis going to Mother Teresa's home in Huruma
Right.
to go and work, just charity work.
Volunteer.
Volunteer. And that time I was like 17, 18.
And you got this from a local curriculum, because I know this is the mind of an IB teacher. This is the mind of
Yeah.
a British Cambridge teacher.
Yes.
Having those teachers believe in a teacher
Yeah.
having an impact in the society is
Yes.
that's something that is so golden.
Actually, without, should I say, advertising Strathmore, is that the blueprint they have has not changed in 60 years. 60. Still the same. So the blueprint they have is the blueprint that I went through as a teacher,
Right.
as a student and as a teacher. And that blueprint is exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
The blueprint is beyond borders. It is not defined by curriculum.
Yes,
It's
it's not
defined by schools. It's
beyond.
It's beyond the curriculum. It's beyond the curriculum. And beyond the curriculum is a person, is actually the human being. So if you're doing IGCSE, who are you teaching? You're teaching human beings. If you're doing IB, who are you teaching? You're teaching human beings. If you're teaching CBC, who are you teaching? You're teaching human beings. So these guys have come up with something that addresses the human being. And it actually broken it down into four components. The first and most important is industriousness, hard work. They believe in hard work.
You got to work hard.
Oh, you work.
Yes.
Okay, though they take the best, the brilliant, but industriousness, hard work, that one there's no compromise. But people work there, and I've got that from them. So students are put into that hard work. The second one is about character formation. Now that one is standard. You're given a tutor the moment you enter that school. You're given a tutor stroke mentor who will be with you for the next whatever. I was there for 6 years, and my tutor is the one who told me, Cliff, you're a teacher. Go into teaching. That is where your vocation and your passion is. He was not wrong.
At what age were you when they told you you're a teacher?
I was 17.
17 years.
17. I was just about to write my A-levels exams, and then after writing the A-levels exams, I got a scholarship
Right.
to go and study accountancy. Kind of. The guy told me, account, no, that's not you. Man, you're a teacher. Not only a teacher, you're a teacher of kids.
Wow.
So just go and... So I went to Kenya Science, did my teaching over there. But again, I didn't go and teach in secondary. I came back to teach in primary because that's where he told me I belong. So someone who sees inside you. So character formation, right? Standard, everyone has a tutor. The third one is sports and talent. At that particular time, even right now, almost 40 years apart, they still have a standard sports league competition within the class where students take part in almost 5 ball games. So what does that? Sports teaches you more things than anything else. Teaches you sportsmanship, discipline, losing, winning, kind of all those things.
Right.
All those. And then the last one is community service learning. Now that one was not taught. It was actually practiced. Forget about being taught. It's practiced. So you pick up those things and you come out and you realize beyond your grades, you are actually
A human being.
yes, you're a complete human being. You don't notice it. For us, it's other people who noticed it. So I go into the teaching profession with all those 4 pillars behind me. Okay, those 4 pillars, right? So anywhere that I've gone, I've never looked at the curriculum. So I went back to Strathmore. That's where I taught for 9 years, and I became part of the system. However, I felt like 844 was stifling my creativity.
Right.
Yeah, because at that time drama was not very prominent in that space. So I wanted a place where there's going to kind of accept my creativity and all that. So I left 844, and then that's when I went to Aga Khan, which is IGCSE. And I remember my boss telling me, there's something different about you. I can't place it, but there's something different.
It's because
Yeah,
you're not just an educator.
Yeah, it's like, so I asked her, okay, different good or different bad? So no, different good, kind of, you're just different. I didn't know, because for us it's like you come out of there, those 4 pillars just drive you, industriousness drives you, character formation drives you, talent drives you, CSR drives you, kind of. So that has always been the driving force. Okay, and of course now when I moved from Aga Khan to Oshawa, again it was just like vertical progression. So again, the same thing. At the center of it all now, the place of industriousness, now I replaced it also with innovation and creativity. Because now I brought in my flair.
Yes.
Now here I am a writer, I've published books. How can I bring in all this flair into the curriculum and go beyond that? But something was not there, kind of, there's something missing.
Right.
And it came, should I say, about in 2014, because where I lived, and it was not very far from deep sea slums, and I kept on meeting these boys, small boys who are not in school, asking me for money, kind of, so you buy them a meal today, you've not solved the problem. So it kept on nagging, kind of like, can I do something more? And hence, Homeless on Nairobi was birthed, and we started a feeding program for the street kids. But after 3 months, 4 months of daily feeding, the kids told me, man, we want to go back to school. That's when it clicked. This is what I was looking for. It's like, how can I be in this brilliant space whereby I'm being paid good salary because these guys can afford, but there are these guys who will never ever taste my brilliance because they can't afford.
Correct.
And hence I said, okay, fine, good. So hence started my, should I say, my duality of teaching in these high cost schools, giving back, fully in these other places. So from the feeding program, we went to an orphanage.
Right.
From the orphanage, we went to programs in the slums.
Okay.
From the programs in the slums, we now went for other outreach and reaching out to schools within, kind of that. So that ensured that I am able to spend my time in both places and comfortably. So we've built a kitchen in Deep Sea, we've built a community library in Deep Sea, and sometimes until recently, I would, before I moved to Regis, because I used to live around there, I would leave work and I would leave an office and go to another office.
Wow.
In the slums, But beyond the physical spaces, right? It was not that. It was about the human being.
And it's quite intriguing. You've just said beyond the curriculum, beyond the grades, we are all humans. And you have to find a way to impact the society, to impact the next human being that you get to meet or you get to see. But now, apart from the mentors that you had, at what point, what makes you just sit down and come up with an idea and think, wow, I'm seeing the kids in the slum, I can do something about it. Do you have reflection time? Is it that people call you, or how do you get these ideas around?
Eric, you're a creative, so I think you can answer that question. You can answer that question. Is when someone asks you, how did you come up with the script? How did you come up with this?
Right.
How did you come up with this? It just hits you. So, what do you call the CQ, the creative quotient that you and I have. Not everyone will have that creative quotient.
Okay.
So my creative quotient expands. Yes, at times I'll write a book, I'll write a story, I'll write a script, kind of. But being in the space of teaching,
right,
I'll also come up with innovative programs.
Aha.
So we've come with crazy innovative programs that will make teaching fun. So part of that creativity is always looking at those guys on the streets. Like there's a time one boy told me, because we were trying so hard to get him back to school, and this 15-year-old told me something that just left me, kind of jaw-dropping. The guy said, kusoma nitasoma, lakini shule sitaenda.
Allah. It hit you.
I looked at him, it was just a click. He's like, no, I don't need to take them to school.
But they can still learn.
They can still learn.
Right.
So I started what we call Shule Mtaani. So Shule Mtaani was now to get teachers to come and work with them within their natural environment. So the guy does not have to wear uniform.
Yes.
Does not have to be present, or
yes,
is absent, or whatever. So that was one. So getting Shule Mtaani. Secondly was also to the ones who were willing was to get them into job shadowing. So they go and learn on the job rather than going for training. Because some of these guys dropped out in standard 2. Some of them never went to school. So the guy is scared. So we said, okay, job shadowing, go 3-4 of you together, do some things. So that moment when you're talking to some of those guys, the things that they say kind of hits you. But also, sometimes you look at them as like, what can I do better than just this? So when we realized that so many kids were, during the holidays after school, they were going onto the streets, we started a holiday camp, summer camp. We started summer camps. Now I can see many guys are doing those summer camps in the slums. Why? Because it keeps the kids occupied. Because now if you live in the slum, your mom works the whole day, also your dad, so nobody is there. So what are you going to do? You just go to the streets.
That is true.
And of course, so we started those programs.
Yes.
And then we realized that the older kids were getting kind of bored.
Mm-hmm.
This is like, okay, it's very interesting crafts. So sometimes we use the older kids as mentors for the younger ones.
For the young ones.
But now we've started our job shadowing also for them. So they go and work out. So the ideas do come when you look at an issue and it's like, this one is not working so well for this. This is working. So that creativity aspect.
Yeah. So that means you have to keep on being there and trying out different things, and whatever works, that is what you go with.
Yeah, but not always. Also, I empower people a lot. Like now, right here at Makini, formerly Regis, we have the Sulwe program.
Okay. So
Sulwe program is like, fine, I learned here, and that time it was Regis, 4.5 years ago. And what do I notice? Next is Githogoro. So do I have to go all the way to deep sea to impact? No. So how can I ensure that all the schools around here impact Githogoro? Right?
Yeah.